everyone for the Bharat Connect's next episode, where we are trying to discuss, what channels, in contact center today, are playing an important and key role, or are is there a chance that voice is getting outdated, and since we have started seeing a lot of new channels, omni channels is what they call right now, and where you have chatbots, or email, SMS, and so social media for that matter, even WhatsApp playing a good amount of role there. So there is going to be always a change, right? So the only constant thing in the world is going to be the change, right? So so we have to live with all the new changes coming up, and so learn to adapt and evolve and everything. So given all this context, are we still up for saying voice is relevant, or it's going to help us with what we are doing, or we have to start looking at and plan ahead for the other channels, and start focusing more on those areas, not on the voice. So that's going to be the main agenda for today's topic. And I welcome every one of you here for this panel discussion, because we have a very special panelist here. So I'll just introduce them in a minute. Before that, I would like to talk 1 minute about the Bharat Connect. So Bharat Connect is a non-profit organization we have started about a year ago, and we are trying to what we're trying to achieve in this Bharat Connect is to create a platform for contact centers and anyone that are in the business of a customer interaction, based out of India. I mean, we are okay to allow participants from worldwide, but we are basically concentrating on Indian market. The reason is, when we entered India a few years back, it was one of the shocking revelation that we are not able to find a good platform or a space where all of us can come together and discuss our challenges, and see how we can take our industry forward, and how we can facilitate newcomers, how we can help other vendors to connect with all different big play providers, so all of that. So this is a platform where we are trying to invite have asking our other providers from the industries, it could be a cloud-based voice cloud-based platform, dialer platform, or an on-premises platform, or headphone, or whatever they are supplying, what are the phone system they are supplying, or the contact center agencies that are providing manpower, every one of them, we are inviting them, expecting them to be part of our Bharat Connect forum, where we all can discuss and see how we can help each other, create an environment that is more warm and helping each other, because India is a leader no matter what, in the space, a contact center, so BPOs and KPOs, but so it is just that we are still lacking a good platform where we can all come together and help us keep up with our edge, and because there are a lot of third world countries are competing, trying to take our pie. So it is time for us to recognize that, and then see how we can keep ourselves competitive, right, and discuss our industry problems, and come up with better solutions as such. Okay, so that's about the Bharat Connect. So let me quickly introduce our panelists. So we have 3 panelists today. So let me start with Vinay Kanchi. So he's Vice President Contact Center Business at Fareportal. So it is also a US-based company, but have operations around the globe, and so they are empowering like a travel related websites and everything, they are being the backbone and providing a lot of services. So he has a first-hand experience dealing with contact centers, as a outsourcing model early on, and in recent term, he's been handling it with the in-house model where he has about 1,700 to 2,000 agents and across many countries, and he has that experience of managing them and what kind of challenges they are facing, and how they are able to meet those challenges at the end of the day and still make profit. So he's here with us to share his experience, and we have some discussion points that is going to go towards Vinay, and I would expect some more questions coming up from the audience as well. So he's here to help us understand this uh, his experience and help us understand how all these channels are putting together, how it's going to help, and where do we stand with voice. Okay, so I would like to welcome Vinay, Kanchi to our panel discussions. Thank you so much for being with us, and we appreciate all your time and effort.
Thank you.
So next is Balamurali is here. He's a head of PMO at Standard Chartered Bank. So working in a bank, you wear a different hats and go through a lot of different skills and different departments or all that stuff. So Balamurali is is very well used to that, and he has been working putting on different hats, and so the last one is so the lean management is where his interests are, and he's proud to be pioneer in that lean management, and he's also ready to talk about it, and he's available, he's making himself available as a a public speaker, and I help them to understand what he's doing, and what lean management, and what are the benefits, and everything. So we would like to thank Balamurali today to be with us and share his opinion, and what he thinks, and how we can help take it learn from his experience to understand where do we stand with this different channels, and especially the voice. So welcome to the panel discussion, Balamurali.
Thanks, Uthaman. Thanks for your introduction. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And the third panelist is interesting. So co-founder CEO of MOBtexting, Ajay Gupta. So when I talk about Ajay, it reminds me some of my earlier days of my own, coming up from lower middle class, coming up to the entrepreneurship, and being able to execute it, and being successful. It's not an easy task. So so in that way, Ajay Gupta deserves a lot of credits, and he has done it. He's done it well, and so he has raised millions of dollars, and they are doing very well in in MOBtexting. So we would like to wish them good luck, and so he's here to share his experience of, because his customer base is using lots of different channels again, and so they are into the cloud based contact center. So his experience, what he thinks, how texting is going to work, or so the chatbots, using all the latest technologies, and how they are able to help their clients to handle some of these challenges, and what his take on the voice. So let's figure it out from Ajay. So okay, so I would like to welcome Ajay Gupta for our to our panel discussion today. Thank you so much, Ajay, to be with us today.
Thank you so much, Uthaman, for inviting me for this discussion.
Yeah, the pleasure is on us. Yeah. I know we tried inviting you last time, and then our timing did not work out. Yeah. So I'm glad we are able to make it this time, and so thanks so much for being with us. So the topic itself is very it is not different in that way. Like, anywhere you see there is going to be a revolution and there is going to be new technologies coming. Like, it happens all the time. But then there are some stats I want to throw out here, right? So the customer surveys, right? Like, still the recent one says 85% of customers prefer live conversation to get their problem solved quickly, and 46 want to communicate a complaint to a real person, and 30% believe that it is best way to receive the information for whatever the sake. Like, so let's say your chatbot replying saying, like, so this is what your, like, account balance is. Probably, like, most people would say, okay, that might be the balance. But then if he has a problem with his credit card or for whatever, for example, and then if a chatbot replies saying, like, this is the situation, probably, like, the hunch is to, like, can I check with one more time with a real agent, like, what could be the reason or what went wrong, where is my credit card, like, what happened to my credit card, like, something like that. Because at the end of the day, we are a human being, and looking to hear that from another human being saying, okay, this is the problem, like, kind of a thing. So, like, there are positive and negative. So let's go over the discussion points and, like, figure it out. Okay. So the first discussion point we would like to start with is, like, it goes to Vinay, Kanchi. So look at an organization like a CD baby, right? Their claim to fame is a customer experience that they provide. Their agents pick up a call within first 2 rings. So that has been their success mantra, right? And so they have made sure that happens, and they take care of the customer in that way. And customers are always felt they are not too far away, like, from reaching out back to the company for whatever the reason it is, right? So what would you say about this, Vinay, this approach?
Thank you, Uthaman. And great question. I think in the current environment or in a very normal environment, I think what matters is when I have an issue or when I want to do a transaction, if I'm able to do it with a human being on the other side, I will always be more comfortable because I can depend on that individual. My brain reciprocates to what that agent on the other side is advising me. I think contact center is all about advice. Contact center is all about thinking well for the customer on the other side who is speaking.
Yeah.
That is the sole, I would say, intent of an agent on the other side, or what we call as a customer service agent. His job is well-being of the customer for that 15 minutes of time that he's spending or 5 minutes of time that he's spending. As regards CD baby, I mean, hosting music is something which they do extremely well. I mean, they teach people as to how you can create music and then how you can host your music, make money out of it. Now, somebody who's not done too much of homework in terms of research or doesn't have the ability to do research wants to hear from somebody.
Yeah.
And once you hear from somebody, it becomes more convincing for you to either do the transaction, make the sale, or get the service which is required. I think the human touch is there to stay, but there will be other channels which will also be welcoming customers, because there are some customers who will always say, we don't want to go the CD baby route. We have a very simple requirement which can be sufficed through a chat or a bot or a response which you get from the IVR when you call up the contact center. So there are various, I would say, levels of transaction. The simplest of transaction which don't really matter to the customer also. Remember, the transaction should not matter to the customer, that I should be speaking to a human being on the other side. Mm-hmm. If I am convinced about that, I will talk to a bot. I don't have an issue. But if I have a serious issue like what you were citing, I have a complaint, I do want to speak to somebody to tell them to help me. Complaint is not about ranting out your problem. It is about getting a problem solved. And who else than a human being? Those would be my 2 cents, Uthaman. Back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Vinay. So you have anything to add, Balamurali or Ajay?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Just adding on to what Vinay was talking about here, Actually, if you look at the slogan of the customer service team of CDBB, it's a very interesting slogan. Okay, so I just read the slogan. I was like, very interesting. It's people, hyphen, people. Okay, that's a slogan which they do. So I think the hallmark of probably CDBB is that their central focal point is actually people. So that's the reason why I think they pay so much of attention to customer service as such.
Yeah.
So, and I think, Uthaman, the point also is that they pick up the calls in the first two rings, right? So, which means if the customer has got an issue, they want to resolve the customer issue within the first few minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So now look at any other industry or any other company or bank. Are they able to do it? I think very few are able to do that because most of them probably by the time you talk to an agent, it comes to 5 minutes or 6 minutes, something of the sort. In some cases, the IVR is so difficult to navigate, right? It takes all the time for you to get to the agent, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a very, very important point today because if I connect to what happened in the last 2 years, let's say like in COVID times, okay, I would say that the voice channel for some reason has got into the lower value chain. It's got descaled to some extent.
Okay.
I've talked to many people in the industry. Many of them come and say that if we have to reach any company for any kind of assistance, okay, the voice channel is not available or it's very difficult to get to voice channel, right?
Voice channel. Yeah.
So, the impact to the customer is very high. So I think the CDBB realized the fact that having the human connect or the human touch, which is what is possible through a voice channel, they managed to get to the basics of the customer connect. I think that's very, very important. You can have a bot, you can have anything for that matter, but then if you don't have the human touch, people don't feel comfortable there.
Yeah.
So I think they somehow got to the core of the problem and they managed to retain there. Yeah, we can talk about all these chatbots and everything, but these are evolving things. It's not evolved.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. Ajay.
So I would like to add basically the point. If you see the whole customer experience nowadays and over the time, so what customers are looking out convenience. Whatever they do with basically a brand, could be basically buying a product or trying to communicate with the customer care by any channel. Could be voice, could be chatbot, could be WhatsApp. They are looking convenience. If they don't find convenience, they try to move out to different brands immediately because they don't have time. They are impatient. All the consumer today, they're totally impatient.
Yeah.
Which medium is giving convenience to the customers, that also matters a lot. Now, if a person who does not know how to use chatbot or how to communicate by email for him, the voice is play very, very important role. But the customer who knows, understand technology, for them, chatbot, writing email has become very easy.
Yeah.
And again, what kind of problem he's facing around? There are customers who want immediate solutions. So that time, chatbot, IVR does not respond even the problem.
Yeah.
So I believe, in my experience so far, what customers looking out is convenience from the brand, and which basically help us to enhance the customer experience.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
I think there's a very interesting point with Ajay has raised. Any customer sees what is convenient for him, which is true. Okay. So let's say like somebody is in the age group of 40, 50s. So they may be feeling very convenient, which is true. Probably many of the people who are in the working, they're probably in the late 30s or 40s or 50s, right? So they feel very comfortable with the voice channel. Now, very interesting fact which Ajay just picked up. If you take a teenager, or if you take somebody who's probably 20 years and is coming into the market today, and they're probably coming into the work group in the next couple of years, what you would find is that the approach is remarkably very different. And I think I know the industry as well as everybody who's in the industry has to take a cognizance of it. If you take my daughter, she's more comfortable using something on a on a phone, on an app, and chatting with somebody and getting the information. And she may probably feel lethargic to call up the phone and get some information. She may feel that like, why do you need to make an effort? So I think there is a kind of a generation gap.
Yeah.
So generations differ in their, and like what even Ajay also said, somebody who's not comfortable with an app probably will use a voice channel. Okay.
Yeah.
But a teenager or somebody in the 20s or the Gen Z or whatever, whomsoever you call it, they may feel very comfortable only with an app. Okay. So it's a very interesting thing how the future is going to evolve. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, true. Yeah, because more and more we are getting used to the touch screen and we want instant response, right? So something has to happen immediately. So right, and those are the
it's like somebody saying, instead of picking up the phone and talking to somebody, I would rather message them on WhatsApp. It's I like messaging on WhatsApp rather than talking. It's become like that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next discussion point. So this is for Balamurali. So sales study says, right, 76% of sales service professionals prefer voice channels when addressing complex issues of customers, right? This allows the service professionals to get the problem sorted out over a conversation instead of going back and forth and providing multiple options for them to choose the other channels or whatever it is. So given the scenario, does it make sense to ignore or overlook the voice channel? So what would be your take on this?
I think as of today, Uthaman, and I don't think anybody can afford to ignore the voice channel, because I've seen it. I've had experience with a couple of companies who have ignored the voice channel. It had a clear impact on the customer. And I'm sure the customers who are impacted are never going to come back to that company because they didn't get the right kind of service, right? I know an instance last year, Vinay, there's nothing to do with your area of work, but this is a generic kind of a thing which happened. A personal experience I had. A friend of mine who wanted to travel back to India from London, and he booked it on Travelportal. And due to COVID, he had to go and cancel it, right? So he knew what was the cancellation and what was our cancellation amount, but eventually the money did not come at all. He did not get back the money for 10 months, 9 to 10 months, and there was no voice channel. The email was not working. There was no other mode, nothing. He could not get through. In fact, he was so frustrated that he called up my office and I asked somebody to go and check out whether it's possible. And they checked out. They tried everything. They could not get through. And I think more by luck than anything else, after 10 months or 11 months, you wouldn't believe it. And they came back to him for some other mail, for some other transaction, and he got hold of them and he got it resolved. Okay. So just imagine somebody had to get a refund after 10 months. Okay. So you can give any number of excuses. You can say COVID, because of which we are not operational, anything. But for the customer, for the person who has actually taken that service, would he ever go back to the portal again? I doubt it. He won't go. I won't probably go, because I would probably think I'm not going to book something there and end up losing my money or not getting it at all, right? So I think what has happened is that for some reason, COVID also played a part in making the voice channel lose its thing, or for whatever reason, maybe because there's a lack of resources, whatever. So when that doesn't work, the impact of it is very clearly imminent. I can even talk about another case where somebody went to another portal. Basically, it's a company which actually leases accommodation to people, right? Okay. And they were not able to get through and get whatever information. The only way you can do anything is that raise a ticket. And you raise a ticket, the ticket gets closed within 2 days, but then you don't get any response at all. Okay. So I think more and more these kind of experiences in the current state of it definitely means that the different channels which we have, or the omni channels which we have, are clearly not evolved to that extent to cater to customers like a voice channel.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think at this stage of sitting in 2021, we are ready to get hold or remove voice channel as one of the channels there. It is very much there.
Yeah.
You go and probably do a survey with the customers. They may come back and tell you that 70 to 80% of them will still prefer, maybe the generation, because most of them in the working generation are in 30s and 40s and 50s. They would still prefer a voice channel there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
May I, Uthaman?
Yeah, sure.
And I think this is the crux of all companies, be it travel, be it any other part of the business. I think communication is key. When you're not able to cater to a customer need, and in your case, an example of a refund, keep communicating with the customer. as to why the customer is unable to get his refund. It could be probably the airline who he has booked with has gone bankrupt. The company itself probably is no longer functional and it has a class action. There could be so many, I would say, reasons as to why the money was not refunded back to the customer. Very important in a contact center, communicate as much as possible. And it doesn't always need to be a voice channel. It can be through an email. It can be through probably a dialer. It can be a robocall informing customer of his status. There are so many tools which are available. I think if we do this whole communication bit extremely well with customers, with a conscious mind that I want this customer back once COVID-19 is over, then only you will be able to make sure that he is with you when he comes back. Because it's very easy to lose a customer. But if you have retained him by virtue of communicating on a periodic basis, you won half the battle.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I think Vinay, you nailed it very well. I think like Vinay said, it's not just about the voice channel. I think it's about keeping the communication track with the customer.
Communication, yeah.
So I think voice channel is something on the surface, and what is below the surface is the fact that you lost the communication with the customer, and the customer lost faith in the process.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like when I said, people always think that if there is some kind of calamity, the calamity is short term, whether it's COVID or anything for the matter. So what happens after the calamity? How a company behaves during a crisis or during calamity and holds a customer at the center of the focal point is very, very important. If you drop the ball at that time, you won't be able to pick it up again when the calamity is over. So that part is very, very important. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
True. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I had a personal experience also, like what Bala was just explaining. So, so during the COVID, there has been like a lot of flight cancellations, and the airlines were literally having no revenue, absolutely no revenue, or they have already collected the price for all the tickets, but then their flights are not flying. And so they just didn't find any way to repay all those amount back, because they don't know about what's going to happen in the future and how long they have to wait. And so how are they going to sustain as a company? How are they going to keep up with all the aircrafts and the employees? And so it was like a lot of unknowns there. So yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Key, Uthaman, Mr. Vinay said, is communication. You tell the customer that I'm going to take 3 months or 4 months to pay.
Yeah.
And say we have a crisis, or we have a kind of fund flow crisis, anything. So the customer knows that you are going through a crisis, and he will understand. And you keep the communication channels open.
Yes.
But if you firewall your communication channels and just shut down, then I think he doesn't know where he stands actually.
Yeah. That's a totally no, because in my experience, what happened was I was given the credit for the 2-year period, and then they said if the situation demands, then they can extend that 2-year period also. So when I was supposed to be flying last May, June, July, and all that, so all those flights were cancelled, and then I was given a 2 years period to use use those credits. So only thing is they were not in a position to pay the money back, but they said we'll let you use the same credits for any of the future flights, things like that. So yeah. But the communication and how quickly you're able to connect with the customer and letting them know, that's the key. So unless we do that, so there is a question of the trust and everything come into play. It doesn't matter what channel it is here, right? Then the trust is gone. So that's the most important thing. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, to Ajay. So the biggest challenge that I keep hearing about customer service is the escalating cost of providing customer support and assistance. So most organizations look at automating tasks and reduce the cost, right? So while I understand that there are definite use cases for automation in customer service, ignoring a vital channel like a voice would be counterproductive, right? So what would you take on this one? So
here the point, again, we were talking about airline, the problem in the COVID-19, okay?
Yeah.
The airlines are being cancelled and the customer care center or contact center was totally missed. No one respond to call, customers get panic, okay? So in that case, there was a very nice use case which airlines could have been adapted, okay? Could be multi-channel communication tool. And now the most of the consumers who book the airlines, they know how to use technology, how to use the multiple communication channel.
Yeah.
In that case, if they could have used, the chatbot using conversational AI, so how they can delight the customers. Okay, one way, of course, when airline is basically being cancelled because of the natural problems, they cannot do anything. So one way, if they can communicate by using, say, maybe the email or chatbot or WhatsApp APIs, okay. One way it was about refunding the money or giving a grace period. And then if they are giving any kind of bonus offer to them, if you book a ticket, whenever the airlines get open. Okay. So here you're talking about the cost advantage. Now, each channel has different costs. Now, if they use, say, Facebook Messenger API, where cost is very, very low, but while call has a very higher cost. If they again go on WhatsApp API, the cost again is low. In WhatsApp API basically allow in 24 hours, customer can engage with the brand at no cost. The only one-time cost get charged. So the business person or the brand has to understand which medium can basically optimize the cost for the brand, for the consumers. So
Okay.
then they can adapt the adapting multi-channel communication or customer support would basically add value to the system also and customer also in customers, because only one channel will not work.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
So my advice would be basically adapting multi-channel communication here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, true. So because like they have to analyze it from different perspective, right? So the cost and the speed.
And yeah, I will give a real-time example. Do you know, suppose I have to travel from Bangalore to Mumbai and on the last moment, my airline is being cancelled because of some reason. And my travel is very, very critical. I cannot basically cancel it. Now, what I will do, I will call to customer care, and customer care does not respond on time. We know very well, okay? Generally, if airline can communicate me by basically message or chatbot, okay, saying that, hey Ajay, your flight is being cancelled because of certain reason. Here are next available flights available for you, can book it. Okay, I'm getting option basically in the message box only, and I booked the basically flight using those options. The moment I book the flight, maybe my duration was travel around 3 hours, but it's become maybe 7 hours. Okay, increasingly because my travel is not being cancelled. And then the moment I enter into basically the airport or get into the flight, I get another message being some offer. Hey Ajay, your flight was cancelled because of some reason, and here is basically bonus offer for you, a free meal in the flight.
Yeah.
How do I delight the customers? Now here I'm not using a basically voice medium. I'm just using a chatbot, or I'm using basically message communication tool. So it's basically, if they are able to adopt multi-channel in the right way and able to delight the customers, then brand loyalty get increased.
Yes.
And there are so many brands in the airline category from internationally, they've adopted this strategy very well.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So it's about like, how to take care of that particular scenario at that juncture, and then like, how to keep the customer happy, right? So that's a critical thing. Yeah.
Very simple. Now, suppose if the airline is being cancelled, if each airline carry around 300 passengers, 300 passengers is calling to customer care. It's very big job for the customer care to handle the calls. But while chatbot can handle all those 300 query at one time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if the brand understands the using technology, they can enhance the customer engagement. They can enhance the customer experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Yeah. So, Vinay, Bala, you want to add anything to it?
Yeah. As far as the voice channel is concerned, I think it does have a cost, and it is basically a myth that it is a cost. If you come with the fundamental premise that I will render customer service, my customer service is very exclusive. You can always use chat, you can always use email, you can use any of these omni channels, whichever you want. But if you really want a concierge kind of service, you will have to pay for it. It is not that everything comes for free. Today, whenever you go, to a service outlet, you are charged certain amount of service fees, even if you're standing at the outlet and getting things serviced, including your hand phone. They put a service charge of 300 rupees or $5 if you're going to the outlet. Now, as customers, we also need to understand is when we are talking to an agent in a contact center and he needs a certain kind of service, not all services need to be paid for. There are certain services can be free. Like, for example, you can have a free confirmation of whatever invoice you have for the product which you have bought, or a confirmation for your ticket. Those things can come in free. But if you want certain changes to be done by calling agent, unlike what Ajay was saying, send me an option on chat, on a WhatsApp chat. And there are lots of people who have actually integrated that. When they send you options, you can click on the option, boom, your booking is confirmed. Now, when you talk to an agent, it will come at a price because you're consuming that person's time. So there is going to be a price to it. So that's how people who manage these contact centers have to evolve. You need to start measuring what money you make per call which lands in the contact center. You cannot say, I get millions of calls and out of that I make, I do it free of cost. That doesn't make sense. Nothing comes for free. You will have to either package that cost somewhere in your product, or you really need to make the contact center accountable to make money as a profit center. That's the only way to survive the voice channel. Otherwise, there is no way you can survive the voice channel. It has to self-sustain, self-fund itself. Those are my 2 cents.
Because it involves human being, actual human being behind the scenes. So it's always going to have higher cost, right? Whether the contact center is located in India or Philippines, it doesn't matter, right? So still there's some cost. Whereas, Ajay said, if they are able to use the right chatbots and different channels, so they could keep their customer comfortable and informed, and so keep them happy about what's happening, and so with the timely advanced notifications and everything. So
perfect.
So Vinay,
Uthaman, I just want to add to what Mr. Vinay said.
Go ahead.
I think when you cross a certain threshold, nothing comes for free. Right. So I think somewhere in India, when we got into this business of services, I think banks is something which we deal with, right? So customer service, the call centers. If you look at the whole lot of things which we provide as a bank to a customer, right? Today, the customer is able to see his statement on an app. The customer is able to talk to an agent, or the customer is able to chat with somebody, or the customer is able to do an online transfer. I'm just digressing a bit just to bring this cost factor into focus today, right? So if I have to do a transfer today, I mean, if I have to do a transfer 20 years before, 25 years before, I have to walk into a bank, fill up a challan, wait for some time, get the transfer done. Today, what happens is that you can do an IMPL, NEFT or something like that, and get the entire transaction done. Maybe you have Google Pay and everything. Now, what happens is that it may look very simple for anybody who does it, anybody who uses it, but what is the cost involved in building that capability? Okay, one of the things, the greatest challenges we face in a bank today, in a retail banking environment where we reach out to the customer, is the more and more we try to reach out to the customer, the more and more tools we give to them. It doesn't come free. It is a multi-million-dollar kind of a cost which is involved there. Like what Mr. Vinay said, you're not going to you can't keep doing it free. Right? So somewhere you have to price it. And I think in India, for all companies, or maybe there's a mindset saying that if you're going to charge something, the customer is not going to come, right? And I'm just giving some numbers. Right? For example, somebody makes a call, and you say, if you make a call and the customer is going to spend, so the agent is going to spend 5 minutes, I'm going to charge you 20 rupees or 30 rupees. I'm just throwing some number. Nobody's going to say no, right? Because they want that. For me, I don't mind paying the 30 rupees or 50 rupees to get an issue resolved immediately within the next 3 to 4 minutes. rather than trying various channels like email, chatbot, the whole works actually, and don't get my issue resolved for the next 5 months. So is it worth investing 50 rupees now and get it resolved for me quickly? Or does the customer want to work? You have to show that to the customer. You have to tell him, like, if you just spend the 30 rupees or something like that, you can get this, we will put you onto a very seasoned agent or a very experienced agent who can resolve your query in the next 5 minutes. So the customer will think like, it doesn't matter, 30 rupees. If I have even a cup of coffee, it's going to only cost me some 20 rupees or 30 rupees. Let me do that. It's going to save a lot of headache for me. And coming to the point which Ajay had talked about, like he was talking about the fact that you can use chatbots to, okay, what we need to do is that, yes, technology is amazing. There are multiple ways you can reach out to the customer. At the same time, you also have to keep something in mind. We have to make it much more easier for the customer. For example, one of the things is that if you want a chatbot to start talking to you, what do companies expect? They expect an app to be put on your phone, and that app should be operational. Then the chatbot starts to become operational. So maybe the technology has to evolve a little bit more. Maybe based on your phone number, it can send a link, and based on the link, chat window can open, and then it can give you the information. So make it easier for the customer. Okay. So if you tell a guy who's got probably some 20 GB space in his phone, every time you go and tell him, like, download an app and install it there, like he will think like this app is going to add space to me. It's going to put another 50 MB, 60 MB there. So we are there. I think it will evolve slowly, and we'll get to a point where you may not need an app, but probably a link or something will open up for you, and it can do the job for you.
Yeah.
Something like mild form of an app, which may serve the purpose which is there. Yeah.
True. Yeah. So the added convenience would make all the difference. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think industry should look at pricing some of the work which they do for the customers. Okay, you don't have to, as Vinay was saying, you don't have to price everything. You don't have to price the basic stuff, the hygiene stuff. You don't have to price it. But something which is very specialized and which is going to resolve the issue, and it is going to give you specialized information, I think it can price, and it need not be priced very high.
Yeah. True. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Okay. So thanks, Bala. So next discussion point, let's move on to Vinay. So today customers want to get in touch with brands through channels of their choice. So brands are also responding back to their needs with different making a lot of different availability. But how do you go about figuring out what channel is appropriate for your business and your customer segment, right? Is there any thumb rule to get this addressed, and can you help us understand this one based on your experience?
Sure, Uthaman. I think this is where the customer segmentation comes in handy in terms of your brands and versus the kind of customers you are wanting to bring onto your network or your portal. There will be certain products which are priced very low. And in those kind of products, what you will have to do is you will have to have cost-effective channels to really service the customer. And if there is a need to service the customer through a voice channel, for example, you will need to pay for it, like what I said earlier. But if you look at certain brands which are there, there will be a low-cost brand which will be very clear in its selling proposition when you are buying a product or buying a service from the portal, that this is what you get for this price. And the only way you can communicate with us is an email, which will have a 24-hour chat. And basis that we will respond back to you, or you can come with us on an online chat. There are lots of companies which do not provide dedicated services for low-cost products because the margins are very low. And customers have to knowingly understand this when they buy these products, because I'll talk to you about a very simple product. There is a company in the US wherein till in the last 24 hours, you don't know which hotel you will be given. You just have bought a room for about $25. Now, people who are wanting to buy a room for $25, the inventory which is going to be there is going to be available last minute. There are times when people have gotten into a 3-star property because of availability for $25. It's like an auction. So the channel which is open there to the customer is that you can chat with us if you don't like that particular hotel, because for $25 you could get a very bad room also. You could get a trucker's lodge, which is not so great, to be with family. So the price plays an important role. The brand is going to match with the price, and the services will also be tailored around that.
Around that one. Very good. Yeah, very good example. Yeah. So that's interesting, right? Yeah, $25 buying, you could end up in a 3-star or like a 1-star or no star.
That's correct.
Yeah, and you have to keep guessing. So don't expect a voice channel at that point of time, like to
correct.
Get. Yeah, very true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's move to the last discussion point here to Balamurali. So assuming that you have decided to take your legs off the voice pedal, right? And then how do you make your agents super productive on this channel, right? What kind of automation is required, and what kind of integrations are needed? Like, how do you get your agents to have one view of your customers? Like, can you throw some light on this one?
I think one thing, Uthaman, which I worked in a bank and I worked with core banking systems. These are things which we actually worked on. We do something called single view. Okay. So it's a very interesting concept. Okay. So if an agent has got a single view, what it does is that it shows everything. For example, I'm a customer walking into the bank. I have a savings account, I have a loan account, I have a credit card thing. So everything shows in one single place, right? So, and I can click on that particular option and it can give me what is my credit card related information which is there. Okay. Now taking this a little further, so I think that single view is very important. If you look at banks today, I think what has happened is that suppose you get into an IVR, it says like, are you a savings customer? Are you a loans customer? So what they try to do is that if you say it's a savings customer, it sends you to an agent who's probably specialized in a savings thing, right? Now, I think the core of the question which you're coming back is, are you going to take your legs off the pedal of voice channel? Why are we saying that? Why did the question arise? The question arises because you feel that the cost is getting very high on the voice channel. So can I start moving my work out of the voice channel and do it elsewhere, right? So there are a few ways of looking at it. Okay, one is that like you can have hundreds of agents, right? Currently, who may be segmented based on, I'll just give an example of a bank, okay? You have retail banking, savings, commercial accounts, loan accounts, or for that matter, credit cards, and I might try to route those calls there. And this huge infrastructure is actually costing a lot of money for me. One thing which really needs to happen is that convergence, okay? You need to start converging. That is something which the banks or maybe any company who does product differentiation needs to do that. What I mean by convergence is that instead of having thousands of agents there, you start having agents who are specialized and you can handle any kind of response, right? You move them up the value chain, right? If you look at many of the companies, I think Vinay, of course, has come back and said, like, in his company, like they keep the agents high up in the value chain, but I don't think it applies across the board. In many of the companies, they keep it down the value chain, right?
Yeah.
So bring him up the value chain, make him a guy who understands the process, make him a guy who understands all the products, and he can answer all the questions, right? And then what you need to do is that you need to give him a single view in terms of information which is available, and single view in terms of channel for the customer. I'll tell you what I mean by single view. For example, today, if you go to a bank, if somebody goes to a messaging app in the let's say I go to any bank number X messaging app, somebody comes on the messaging apps and says, sir, what is your account number? So you give the account number and it starts replying to you. Once you pick, now that team is something which is very separate, which is sitting separately there. Now, the moment you feel that whatever you're talking to the guy is not addressing your problem and you want to talk to somebody and get it resolved, then he will say like, please call this number. Okay. Then you call that number that goes to a different channel, voice channel. That's a different team altogether. So what is happening here is that we have one team who's actually like handling the customer, but using chat as a mode. Another team who's handling the customer, taking voice as a mode. Why don't you converge them? Okay, why don't you have a screen? This is something which we discussed at some of the CO related thing, why don't you have a screen where the agent is able to see, have the chat box here, the email option here, and then the voice channel separately. So if something comes to his voice chat, and he immediately can, if he feels that it can be resolved through voice chat, you pull him into the voice channel, right? And finish it off there itself, instead of going into the multiple places. So what happens is that there is a cost saving there. You don't have to use the voice channel so much like before. Maybe you'll be able to resolve most of the stuff using the chat mode itself, right?
Yeah.
Convergence is the key, right? And second thing is that trying to get specialized personnel on different products on a long-term basis is not going to help.
Yeah.
So do a convergence of the products, make people go up the value chain so that they can deliver on multiple products, so that it actually helps you.
Yeah, true.
So these are the approaches. In fact, some of the banks have already started doing that. They are in the process to do that.
Okay.
So I think we can add on to that. You are probably closer to the problem. In fact.
Yeah. So it is definitely so they have to make the right adjustments where to make like an investment and how to make it much more efficient on the agent side, and so that way agent can be more useful to the customers rather than asking the same basic questions or asking questions after having a response from a customer not able to do much because he does not have access to the information that he needs to answer back to the customer. So both could be a challenging, right? So at the same time, allowing the agents work from a remote area, remote places, and what information as a company we are allowing them to see or not to see. That is another dilemma, right? So so what kind of a security challenges are going to come across because of this, right? And how do they know all the query they are making are legitimate and for the addressing actual customer issues and whatever. So there are a lot of challenges there. So I'm pretty sure Vinay would have addressed some of these challenges, right, Vinay?
Yes, we have. Yeah, you're right. We've pretty much taken care of all the information security needs of the business so that customer data is secure. That's prime for us.
Right. Yeah, because on one side you have to make data information available to the agents, on the other side, so you have to keep a check on what we are allowing them to see, and so what is the downside. Yeah. Okay. So I think we have covered all the discussion points that we wanted to. I think I have one more for Ajay here. Yeah, the last question. Yeah, sorry. So most customer service functions started with a voice channel, but because we did not have many choices then, but today we have a lot of choices: chatbot, messaging, email, IVR, mobile app, and click to dial, natural language processing. So given the mix, most organizations are looking at moving towards these automated solutions that take away the need for human agents, right? Contrast this with the fact that consumers and service professionals themselves prefer the voice channel for complex problems and the emergency situation in particular. So it is prudent to keep the voice channel in the mix. How do you calculate the ROI of voice channel, which is what Vinay was keep stressing upon, all along. So as it happens to be a big ticket item. So
I think Vinay would be the right person to answer this query because he's been handling the customer care and contact center for many years. He can basically give the right approach.
Yeah. True. Yeah, you're right. And Uthaman, what we've done is we've kept our customer service channel alive, but we've migrated a lot of those customers into all these channels which Ajay and his company specialize in. We've also got bots in place. We've got a chat team in place, an email response team pretty much in place. Some social channels are also available to our customers to write directly to us. Now, what it has done is it has created an environment where earlier, where voice used to be the most pressured and stressed environment, that has now got dissipated, and it has now gotten divided into some other channels which really are not revenue generating channels. So what we have done is we've kept voice specifically to generate money for the company, but the rest of the channels which are there, predominantly, of course, they also generate revenue, but to a great extent, it is more of those service channels, which customer sends in a message. Either the bot takes care of it, or there is a much more lower skilled agent who is actually catering to that transaction, which is slightly on the cheaper side. Now, what it does is it reduces your burden on your expert agents, who we typically call universal agents, to deal with all kinds of situations. And one more thing which we do is we empower the agent in our business model, because what people have done in the contact center is they love creating these stepped approaches, first escalation, second escalation, third escalation. Now, all these escalation levels have a cost to it. And as the escalation moves up, the price of that employee also moves up, because he's got more expertise, more years behind him. So what happens is he charges more per transaction. But we've not done that. We've kept our escalation channel very, very exclusive, only for very troubled cases. But most of our agents are trained in a manner where they can handle all types of transactions. That reduces our cost, actually. So it needs to be managed smartly. In terms of the fact that people say, oh, if I invest into so much of training time, I will lose money. Yeah, you will lose money for a very short period of time. But then when they start handling larger transactions, they also bring in more revenue for the same time spent on the call.
True. So we have to make the right investment. And
correct.
Okay. Okay. Agree. I think that brings us to conclusion for all the discussion points that we wanted to go about. So now we open up the floor for the questions from the audience. So so let's see what kind of a questions we are going to get, and and then after that we can wrap up the session. So
sure.
Audience.
Hello.
Yes.
This is Ramki.
Ramki. Go ahead.
I have a question. That's the company called Jakarta, where they have come up with visual idea. Some time back, I have seen that. The same idea called flow, whatever I'm going to be going through the voice channel, they have given it in a app kind of a thing. Whatever idea menu I have, the same is replicated across the app. I can select that, put my account number, put my PIN, and traverse through that. And eventually, if the issue is not getting resolved, it can go to a live voice agent.
Sure.
So, do you think that this channel can be effective and can be a replacement for voice channel, or can be like assuming that 100 calls I'm getting for voice channel, can 60 to 70% of these calls can be eliminated using this kind of technology? This is slightly different from chat or an email.
Absolutely.
I can take a part of that question, and then probably Balamurali or Ajay can add on. My point, Ramki, is that if you're able to identify the customer need as to what it is by him inserting a PIN, because by inserting a PIN, what he's doing in the app is he's making sure that he's a genuine customer. And what at the back end the system needs to do is give an indication to the agent that this is a customer who has recently made, let's assume, a 5 lakh rupee transaction on a particular gadget or a product. And he is probably checking to know whether that transaction has already hit my bank account, or what is it that intelligently the app can provide the agent immediately, so that it shows up on a screen that Ramki is calling, he made the following transactions. There is possibility that there's a question around the 500,000 rupees that he spent. Now, if an agent actually is prepared to answer that, he already knows what the subject is. So that call probably can be wrapped up in a minute only. Otherwise, if you create a channel wherein the customer is putting in PIN, you're putting the customer into a queue. That queue will take them to an agent. The agent will ask certain identification questions. What is your mother's maiden name? Which city do you belong to? What's your last 4 digits of your phone number? All that is a waste of time. Because once I've put in my PIN, I can see Ramki's account on my screen, and then I can clearly see what exactly is the transaction all about. I respond to the customer, boom, you're done. Finished with the call.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think Vinay, that's a good point you made. People need to also factor the amount of time the customer is going to spend. If he's going to spend the amount of time on the app, it looks to me, Ramki, that this app is replacing an IVR, right? Technically, right?
Yeah.
It's like an app-based IVR, and and then eventually it takes you to an agent if nothing else is able to do. Like what Vinay said, I think this entire flow needs to be simple. And whatever validations, typical customer service guy is asking, like, can you give me your card number, or for that matter, mother's maiden name, or whatever. If you say, either you give it as a PIN or if you capture it in the app itself, you should not be repeating. You should straight away get to the point and close that. I think these kind of technologies are bound to come, and these technologies will definitely slowly evolve. I think it will evolve at the time. If you look at even the IVR, maybe anybody who's used IVR 20 years before, they used to scream at it, right? Because IVR used to be so painful to deal with it. So all these apps are also going through that evolution, and it will eventually get to a point where it gets very streamlined and people get used to it. As I said, Uthaman, this is a channel, maybe somebody who's like, a 20-year-old or somebody who's just coming out of a college, they may be very comfortable rather than using an IVR. They may not be very comfortable going into an IVR and using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And maybe this, typing is easier for them, right? They type it very fast. They do it and they go. So, I think innovative apps like this will definitely, like, some of them will definitely catch up and will change the
way how we.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks, Ramki. Okay, so any more questions, anyone?
Hi, I'm Deepika here.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so we are talking about voice channels. I feel like we need to be very careful to plan it, because there are a lot of multiple variables. Lack of time, probably, the high attrition rate, the IT issues. So all this, I feel like, add up to a huge indirect or, direct costs. But when we see the other channels, at least that allows me to run transactional stuff, right? So any of you can share your thoughts on this?
I can take the first shot. I think Balamurali made this point. Deepika, right? Deepika.
Yes.
Balamurali made a very great point. We all consider agents to be at the bottom of the value chain, and that is what causes attrition in contact centers. If you elevate them to be on the top of the funnel, that is where you're going to derive value from these contact center employees. I'm not available to give you the numbers, but contact centers need to be profitable. And there are ways and means of making contact centers profitable. And that is a trick of the trade. If you continue to underpay and pay them base salaries, which the industry pays, you will continue to see 10 to 12% attrition in businesses in the contact center. But if you pay them a fair base, a very good, I would say, performance-based payout every month, you will find yourself retaining more employees who want to stay with you, make more money, but at the same time also provide great customer service. So you pay for performance every month to these agents. They pretty much stay with you for life. We have a large pool of agents who are here for their life with us.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. Nice. So it's an interesting approach, actually, because like what Bala was saying, we have seen most most common practice is to keep them at the lower and deal the problem that way. So that eventually leads to a lot of training and so most of the time agents are new and not able to answer the right questions, and eventually they lose a customer, and so that's going to cost a big time.
I will add one point here.
Yeah,
Ajay, please go ahead.
Yeah. See, the Deepika question now about the voice being very cost oriented now.
Yeah.
Again, what kind of basically the setup you want now? If you see, all the businesses have moved from the physical phone setup to cloud phone now. Even from the basic setup to complex, if they want a basic setup, they don't need to be too much costly for them. While for the physical setup, they need to have basically hardware. They need to basically put the hardware in that. It's very highly cost, too much cost for them. But if they move to cloud, they don't need to pay any kind of hardware cost. There is no setup cost for them. They pay and they use it.
Yeah.
So I don't find it's very big and very costly. But while if you go with any other channels, you need to have a team who will set up the basically flow. You need to pay setup cost. There is a huge cost involved in that. But while voice is not that much costly for it all to you. Yes, if you have a complex setup, then you need to basically set up a complete contact center. What Binaji was talking about it. Then you need to basically give the importance to agents, which basically play important role in the converting the clients.
Yeah.
So it's depending on the use case and business requirement. The voice cost is not that much high.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Bala, you are going to say something.
Absolutely, I think Vinay and me, we were also mentioning that the voice need not be the going forward. The voice need not be the mode for everything. You can do a customer segmentation.
Yeah.
In the bank, if you look at it, they do have some kind of broad segmentation. Some of the banks started doing it. They say something like a priority customer, non-priority customer. So if it's a priority customer, obviously, you can have a set of agents who are higher up in the value chain and giving the right kind of service and getting that. If it's a non-priority customer, you can use the omni mix or omni channels which are there, and you can service them, because obviously your revenue is very low there. So you don't want to be spending a lot of time. But what is the best way to give the information to them, right? Whether it's the chatbot or for the messaging app. And only if you think that a particular transaction is probably taking more than 7 minutes or something, then you may get an agent into the picture, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you try to do that. So that way, I think going back to what the industry is doing right now, if you look at an agent in many of the companies, they get paid very less. In fact, we are talking some numbers, and people are throwing numbers like 15,000 rupees per month, right? So what does the agent really look up to, right? You need to really bring him up the value chain, and you need to give him that motivation.
Motivation, yeah.
To actually sustain that. Instead of, then I don't think you will have this issue about 12% kind of an attrition rate. The attrition will be much lesser actually.
Yeah.
And you also need to think about how to charge the customer for certain value-added services. That needs to start coming in. Nothing comes free. Today, if you look at any of the news portals today, I'm talking about. Okay, yesterday I saw something. The print came back and said, you need to pay a subscription. If you don't pay a subscription, we can't survive. Right? So everybody talks about you can't no longer go to the print and you can pick up an article and read. The moment you start reading the fifth line, it says you need to subscribe for you to read this premium article. Right? That's how it works. Nothing comes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Money, but some money to to make it to provide the service. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then it becomes a revenue-based kind of a model, like what Vinay says. Otherwise, where do you get the money to run that?
Yeah, it's not sustainable. Yeah, true. Okay. Okay. Any more questions?
Hey, I'm Joshua this side. I don't have a question. I'm just topping up to what Noah said. I find with Apple Siri, Amazon Echo, and Google Alexa, having so much of say adoption, I find voice is here to stay. It will never go. People love to talk. it might get segmented in the service industry. It might get into some priority customers probably would be having the ability to talk to the agents faster compared. I actually help my clients attribute calls back into the marketing efforts. So some of my clients have implemented some of the good points that you have already said. And one of those points is priority customers are connected to the agents faster. And the second segment of customers, they also get connected to the call center, but it takes a little while. So that way they are able to put the revenue and justify all the activities that they do. So some call for convenience and some call for need. And I think those who call for need are more desperate and they want a two-way communication. Just adding my 2 cents to all the beautiful points that came out in this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Joshua. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, that's a nice summary of what we discussed for the past 1 hour. Yeah, thank you. So I think we are already like 10 minutes, almost 7 minutes over time. Sorry about that. So so we can conclude it here. And if there are any more questions, please feel free to send to us, and we'll try to get your answers from the panelist. Even after the meeting is done, that's okay. So I would like to thank all the panelists, Vinay, Balamurali, and Ajay. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us and spending your evening time with us and helping us to understand these complex questions. And we would like to appreciate all your help with this initiative, what we are doing at the Bharat Connect, and in future, we'll come back to you for another panel or one-on-one, or if you would like to contribute writing as an article or blog or anything in this space, we would more than welcome you to help us in any way possible. So we have content writers who can help you with that, and so if you can just discuss the points and they can come up with a write up and everything, and then we can help you on that way also. Okay, so so we're looking forward to work with you in future as well. So thank you so much for your time and everything one more time, and so looking forward to talk to all of you soon in near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Uthaman, for the opportunity.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
For inviting us. Thank you,
Yeah, thanks.
Vinay and Balaji.
Thank you, everyone.